Hi, and welcome to the NBA show. My name is Morten Jensen, and today I'll be talking to you about Troy Brown Jr. and why he needs to get traded. Stay tuned. So, first and foremost, I want to preface this by saying I actually had Troy Brown Jr. as my pick for most improved player this NBA season. So yes, you can definitely point your finger at me and say, oh, the only reason you want him traded is because you want your pick to be right. And then I'm not going to refuse that. That might actually be true on some level. No, I'm kidding. Actually, it's more than that. Troy Brown is legitimately a good NBA player, and he's just not getting enough burn with the Washington Wizards, and you have to wonder why. So here's the thing. Brown ended the season last year on a really high note during the NBA bubble in Florida. He was averaging 15.3 points, 7.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and yes, his shooting numbers were awful, but during that time, he did not play with Bradley Beal or Davis Bertans, both of whom just did not make the trip to Florida for the NBA bubble. So he was like the main offensive driver, which was why his efficiency was low. But you saw all the skills, you saw the talent level, you saw how crucial he could be from the wing position. And there was a lot of optimism for him going into this year. So why isn't he playing? Who knows? Some argue that it's because the Wizards have taken this approach that no one gets entitlement minutes. I'll get back to that because that is ridiculous on some level. But more so, people are saying, it's because they have Russ, they have Beal, they're taking over a lot of ball handling possessions, they're taking a lot of shots. There's not really a fit. And I would just strongly disagree with that notion because here's the thing. Thomas Bryan, unfortunately, went down with an ACL tear earlier this season. He's out for the year. Huge loss. Ish Smith, one of their point guards, is also out for an extended period of time, at least for the next 4, if not 6 weeks. You mean to tell me that you cannot incorporate Troy Brown Jr. into the lineup when you're missing 2 rotation players? That just does not make sense. I understand he's a wing, but you can move folks back and forth on positions. I mean, we're, after all, looking at an NBA right now that is more positionless than ever before. Troy Brown has a valid reasoning for being played. There is no valid reason just for sitting him. And as for entitlement minutes, I get the whole idea of not wanting to give underserving players certain minutes. I get that. But there's also the point of developmental minutes. Brown is entering his 3rd year, or he is in his 3rd year, and him not playing right now at such a crucial point of his career is ridiculous. Not just for him, but also for the Washington Wizards. If they wanted to trade him simply because they identified that he's not a player they want to keep long term, okay, but then it's not in their best interest just to have him on the bench, as that devalues his trade value. Simply put, teams are not inclined to offer much up for a guy who's not playing. That's fair. Teams want to see guys play, get minutes, produce, so they know what they're getting. Right now, Brown's trade value has to be really low because he's playing 13.6 minutes per game when he's even playing. Like, over his last 2 games, he's played a grand total of less than 6 minutes. 6 minutes total over 2 games. That's not going to interest a lot of teams. So the Washington Wizards, assuming they want to move him, get rid of him, whatever they want to do, is actually shooting themselves in the foot for just sitting him. Now, on the flip side, if they want to keep Brown around, which personally I think they should because he's good, it would make a lot of sense to actually give him developmental minutes. Why not? What do you have to lose? After this season, he's going to be eligible for a contract extension anyway. Not that he'll necessarily get one, but it means that we're moving closer to that day where his contract is up and you need to figure out what's in his future. Personally, I think it's time to cut ties both ways, not just for the Wizards, but for Brown as well. I think he's deserving of finding a place where he can get minutes. That would just behoove the both of them to the same extent. They won't have this pressure of playing a guy who really should be getting minutes. Brown could go somewhere else where a team will actually appreciate his potential, his on-court fit. And really, the thing that bothers me most about this, and I've written about this over at Forbes as well, you can check out that link, it's in the description below as well, is really when you think about Brown and his size, 6'7", 220, plus his abilities to handle the ball, shoot the ball, rebound, play at a position of need, with the ability also to actually play multiple positions, being moved up and down. It just befuddles me why the Washington Wizards have made the decision that he's not playable for whatever reason there is. Clearly, he's got the talent, he's got the pedigree. He was almost a lottery pick, one pick away back in the day, and he was that for a reason. His shooting has taken a major leap since college. There is virtually no argument against developing him and trying to get him into the set rotation. If they feel that his workload is not good enough, then yes, that would absolutely be a concern. But I've researched this thing. I cannot find, anything that insinuates he's not putting in the work. In fact, when he came out, that was one of the things that were talked about. He was the fact that he gave an effort every single time. So everything that I'm looking at really goes against the Washington Wizards in this scenario, which is unfortunate because they actually have a guy like Bradley Beal who I think they should consider building around instead of trading. So why not, when you have an asset like Brown, grow it so you can either trade it or grow it so it can fit with Beal? That kind of asset management does not make sense for me. You want someone who can actually take over the offense here and there and play the role of a facilitator, allowing Beal to move off the ball. And yes, I realize they have Russell Westbrook. I do. But he's going to be 33 this year. You have to at least look down the line and understand that he's not going to be a significant piece of their future 4 or 5 or 6 years down the line, whereas Troy Brown Jr., he might. You would want someone you can put alongside Bradley Beal to create things offensively. And look, who knows? The shot mechanics are actually pretty decent with Troy Brown. There's a chance he could develop into a floor spacer as well. He's certainly putting in the work. We've seen him, grow better as a shooter, both from the free throw line, the three-point line. There is potential there. Now, ultimately, if it actually ends up being a situation where the Wizards would want to move him, I think there are several teams out there where he would make sense. The primary team being the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls right now simply don't have a whole lot of wings. Patrick Williams long-term projects more as a 4 than a 3, but one of those new age 4s. Otto Porter Jr.'s contract might actually get bought out, according to Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer. Let's see if that sticks, but either way, he's a free agent after this season, so he might be gone. I've already spent a lot of time talking about Lauri Markkanen on this show. I don't think he's long for the Bulls either, so they're going to need guys at the forward position, and especially guys who are new agey. Brown is that, and if they could get him for very, very little in a trade, I think that would make a lot of sense. Another team that could be interesting, the Boston Celtics. They're looking to upgrade for the long term as well. They're probably going to wait until the summer. That's fine. You can probably trade for Brown then. That shouldn't be a problem. And he would come in as that third wing on their team, replacing essentially the role that was previously occupied by Gordon Hayward. I kind of like the fit there. There won't be a whole lot of offensive responsibilities being put on him because of the presence of Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. So he can actually develop at his own pace, but age-wise, he's on the same line of those guys. Like, he is actually in the same age bracket entirely. It would make sense to actually put him in a role there where he could be a shot creator, a ball handler, a play facilitator. There's a lot of room for growth on the Celtics for Brown, so I like that fit as well. Or you can send him to a team that's actually in the middle of trying to win the NBA championship. He is still on his rookie contract, so matching salaries would be easy. The problem here being that this championship contenders usually don't have a whole lot of picks to send in return. And you also have to wonder how interested the Wizards would be in future picks. I'm not really sure the scenario here, but I think there are so many options at play The question is, how do the Washington Wizards value Troy Brown Jr. as a trade asset? Because right now, if they value him very highly, they're doing him and themselves a major disservice by not playing him. So for now, I would say it's just crucial that they figure out what they want to do with Brown, and also what Brown kind of wants out of his career, because I don't think if he wants to develop into something of significance, I honestly don't necessarily think that Washington is going to be the place for him. And if they don't trade him, he is in his full right to just accept the qualifying offer after next season and play his last year out with the Wizards in his 5th year and then become an unrestricted free agent the year after. But also I understand why he would want financial security. There are a lot of different issues here at hand, but ultimately speaking, I think right now you're looking at a potential divorce between the two parties. I think that makes sense, and I think Brown, wherever he goes, will turn some heads. At least I would be shocked if he didn't.